Hello everyone and welcome to this special interview with me, Carly Leonida. It's the first that I've recorded for the Intelligent Miner, and can I just say what a way to begin. As many of you will know, the Coalition for Eco-Efficient Comminution, or CEEC as it's affectionately known within the industry, marks its 10th anniversary this year. And so to celebrate this milestone, I'm joined today by founding directors Elizabeth Lewis-Gray and Zeljka Pokrajcic. So we're going to talk a bit about why CEEC was established, its achievements thus far, and the role that it will play in the future of the industry. So welcome, Zeljka and Elizabeth. Thank you so much for joining me today. And congratulations, let me just say, 10 years is no mean feat in this industry, and it looks like you've just gone from strength to strength over the years. So my first question to you both was tell me a bit about how and why CEEC was established. Now, Elizabeth, I know that we haven't got you for the full hour today, so if you wanted to start and then Zeljka can jump in afterwards.
Thank you, Carly, and thank you very much for joining us to celebrate what I think is just a really exciting event, the 10th anniversary of CEEC. And, the journey of the, beginning of CEEC was, I think, a really interesting one, and it actually started in my business, which was Gecko Systems, and we specialise in designing equipment that's energy efficient. We look to reduce energy consumption in mineral processing, and we were really taken aback because we would often talk to consultants and potential customers about the type of flow sheets and designs that we were doing, and even though we'd done a lot of historical research, a lot of research in lab-based research to look at how we were breaking rock and how you reduce the amount of energy that goes into breaking rock, we found a lot of the consultants and the mining companies still went back to some really original thinking they had around you need to grind your ore absolutely finely, as fine as possible to maximise recovery. And of course, every time you grind another size finer, you're actually increasing energy consumption exponentially. And I remember my husband, who's the technical director and sort of star of our business, ringing me up very frustrated. And I said, this is an easy discussion because this is about economics, because to grind the rock finer, you've got to have a plant that's 3 times as big and you've got to spend 3 times as much on capital. And then your operating costs are higher. It just doesn't make sense that people aren't sort of, looking to what the current research is saying. And so I decided that I would go and investigate this because it sort of seemed pretty stupid. And I searched on the internet for information on the energy efficiency curves, and I searched for research and I actually couldn't find anything. So I rang up the JKMRC, which is a very eminent comminution research centre at UQ in Brisbane, and I said, what's going on here? And they said, we know it's crazy, like all this research that we've done that indicates that this old way of doing comminution isn't effective. And one of the key pieces was that only 5% of all the energy that was being applied to grinding and breaking rock was actually reducing particle size. The rest of it was being lost in heat and noise and a whole bunch of other sources. So it just seemed crazy. So I flew up to Brisbane. I met with the guys from the JKMRC and they said, look, there's all this research here, but no one knows about it. No one sees it because it's been done under sort of various research banners for various companies, but it's not actually known in the marketplace. And what's more, 5 to 9% of all energy consumed in Australia is used for the crushing of grinding rock. And I just said, well, this is insane. And I spoke to Tim Napier-Munn, and actually then they referred me to Zeljka, who'd recently done a PhD, I think, on the topic. And I rang up Zeljka, and then we just sort of ended up having this conversation with all these really senior people in the industry who all said this is the craziest thing, that no one knows about this and no one's picking up the most recent data. And so having had that sort of discussion, it was sort of like everyone was keen to do something about it, but people didn't know what to do. And of course, my background is in selling ideas, talking about ideas, engaging people, whereas most of the group that we'd spoken to were technical people who were used to doing research and, really understanding the problem but not explaining the problem. So a small group of us decided, including Zeljka, that this was crazy, this was just not sensible. And so we met up together in Brisbane and we agreed that we were going to start this not-for-profit. And my company, Gecko, put in $10,000. The Sustainable Minerals Institute put in $10,000. And Amara, which is the Australian Mineral Industry Research Association, put in $10,000. And we set up a board and we said, we're gonna create the opportunity to actually educate the marketplace. How can we improve energy efficiency in the crushing and grinding of rock by both publishing papers, making the technical results more available in the marketplace, but also by then taking that data and making it economically valid and actually selling that to the people who are making the decisions, and actually telling them the story. So that was sort of where it started. And then because we had this incredible board and because the story was so compelling, we very quickly started to, and because we had a great group of people working on it, we very quickly were able to attract some other sponsorship. And that's where it started. So I'm not sure if that's your memory of it. Zeljka, you might have some other pieces to add.
I think that was really great. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. But I think you left out the key component, Elizabeth, and that was you. That was your drive, your vision, and your unbelievable power to influence the industry and to influence key players. So I remember our first meeting. We were in a coffee shop in Melbourne, quite a fancy coffee shop, bottom of a building, and you came in wearing your country gear, which was like a great coloured vest, and said, "Hi, I'm Elizabeth. These are my two daughters, and I want you to be director of a non-for-profit." First thing I did when I got back to my desk was read what does a director do for a non-for-profit organisation. But you were convinced that the work we had done at the JK needed to be out in the industry, and people needed to appreciate just how much energy is wasted, and in this energy-intensive process called comminution, which is essentially the crushing and breaking of rocks. I think a couple of months later, the International Mineral Processing Congress was on in Brisbane, and we rounded up a few key players. Well, you did. I turned up to a meeting, and before you know it, we had a coalition happening, and we were organising websites, we were harvesting papers on the topic, and we were talking to different people about how important this is. And during that conference, you tapped one or two key people. I think one of them was Tim Napier on the shoulder and said, "Do you want to be a part of this?" And he said, "Elizabeth, if you're driving it, I want to be on it." So that was how it started. It was very early on and very organic and very fluid in the beginning. And the biggest part was that we're all volunteers. We all gave our time willingly. We understood that this was like a big win for the industry, and we needed to promote the things that were happening in this space. It was very good summary there, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Fantastic. And I think the passion that you all have for this subject really shines through as well. Whenever I speak to somebody from CEEC, A, you're so knowledgeable, but B, I can just tell that this is something you guys really care about. And I would actually say that you were ahead of the curve kind of with establishing CEEC and kind of making people aware of this, because we're at a point in the industry now where we all know the really energy intensive areas and that we need to drive this down. But, that's taken quite a while for that sort of general realisation to happen within the industry. And you guys were there. You were 10 years ahead of the curve with this. It's fantastic.
And not just that, it's a non-for-profit. It's a charity, essentially. And to bring the word charity into mining is something which hasn't been done before and hasn't been done since. And it's really taken off. It was a very good, not really business model, but approach for our industry. So well done, Elizabeth.
Well done to all of you. So my second question was just to tell me a bit about CEEC's original goals, and would you say that you've achieved them? Again, Elizabeth, if you'd like to go first, and then Zeljka.
Well, definitely our original goals were to make accessible the research that had been done, and certainly JKMRC were one of the absolute leaders in that field, but there was other research around the world that hadn't been brought to light. So we set up a website where because a lot of the research had been done in research groups, and under some of the banners of the research, you're not allowed to publish the information to the marketplace until the people that have funded the research have access to it for 2 years. So a lot of that research had sort of not ever made the light of day. So we went around and we got all the best papers and we asked if we could publish them. So we got them on the website so that people could access that. We started, but the other goal was really identifying that it's, technical people by nature are conservative, and unless they can tell the story about the economics and why it's important, it's very hard to take those decisions up to the top of the organisation, up to boards, up to CEOs, to help them understand why the decisions they're making around a gold processing plant or a copper processing plant are really going to make such a difference to environmental and energy efficient footprint. So we really identified that the real users of energy, because they grind fine, were mainly the copper and gold areas, and we targeted the board members, the C-suite and the senior technical people in those areas. And we started pretty much, it was a marketing, our aim was to raise the awareness and to educate people on the papers and to provide examples of where people had used different processes and different strategies successfully to reduce their energy consumption.
I remember reading something recently in a press release, actually, said, I think Alison mentioned, Alison Keogh, your CEO, that you guys have actually published something like 700 papers now on this subject. That's such a valuable resource.
I just want to correct you on that comment there, Carly. We haven't actually published them. We've kind of promoted them, we've reviewed them and said they're worthy of quoting to be on our website, and the information on there is technically strong. But yes, that is, I think the aim is to have 1,000 papers by the end of the year to match the 10-year anniversary. And we've also run a number of workshops. I'd say easily a dozen or so workshops around the world, in North America, in Australia, and in South America as well, where we've got leaders in the industry, people who are operating plants, come together and exchange ideas in this space and actually help drive some of the work we're doing at CEEC and some of the direction that we're leading the organisation into. So it's very much has its inputs from industry, and we get our direction from them too.
Okay, and then what would you say have been CEEC's proudest moments so far?
Well, from my point of view, there's actually been so many moments that we've where we've sort of really broken through the norms, changed the way people think. And Zeljka before mentioned the fact that we've established an organisation in a very unusual structure, not-for-profit, that's sponsorship not just by mining companies, but by research houses and by METS companies or the suppliers in the industry. So it's very much a collaborative platform that everyone works together. And I think just to raise enough money to fund, resources and to fund the papers and to attract volunteers. And we've got a lot of associates around the world and ambassadors who come and help us tell that story as well. So it's very much generates its own storytelling, I suppose. So I think that for me was one of the first things. Then Tim Napier-Munn, like Zeljka talked about the workshops, but I remember going to the very first one that Professor Tim Napier-Munn organised in Brisbane. It's actually up at Noosa. We had people from all over the world, from Brazil, from the UK, from Russia. I mean, that was just an incredibly proud moment to think that people would actually jump on a plane and travel. We had sort of 50 or 60 people there, and that made me incredibly proud. Running the first CEEC medal, which is a medal for the best research paper that both combines the research study, the technical study, but also has an economic outcome, you know, and bringing those two factors together. And so for me, it was probably my proudest moments were a lot of the first things that we did, because they were all such a risk. You know, it was all such hard work to get it, you know, established. And every time it was a success. Every time, you know, people used a lot of social media, particularly, you know, platforms like LinkedIn and obviously the website. So as people very quickly jumped on board, you know, every first for me, I suppose, was something I was really proud of. And the board, the way the board came together, and CEEC, you know, and the quality of the directors. But there's been a lot more that's happened since those early days, and I will let Zeljka talk about some of those really fantastic outcomes.
Thanks, Elizabeth. That's right. Those firsts were really excited. And I remember the two of us looking at each other at Noosa going, wow, look at this. We've managed to pull a crowd, people who are passionate, people who are contributing. And we ended up with a document called the CEEC Roadmap, which we still refer to today. And that contains a whole bunch of items, whole bunch of targets that we thought that we should drive the industry towards. And one of those we've achieved. I think the biggest highlight for me is that we're still here and we're still relevant. We still have sponsorship. We still have groups sponsoring us that have been around since the beginning. We've got a new CEO who's been around for about 4 years now. We've got new directors. We've got new ideas coming through, and we're still contributing to the industry in not just comminution. Now we're looking to expand the whole mineral processing chain all the way from the mine all the way to the concentrate generation. We've had some interesting impact from the Canadian Innovation Council. They're talking about looking at water consumption and trying to minimise that, as well as energy used in comminution. Some of the other biggest highlight, I think, for me is an initiative we started a couple of years ago, maybe 4 years ago now, which is the CEEC Energy Curve, which is something that we've adopted from the accounting industry, where we look essentially as a cost curve where you can benchmark your operational performance in terms of energy consumption, cost, as well as kilowatt hours, against other operations, and give you a kind of marked line in the sand as to where your operation is compared to everybody else, and potential opportunities to improve that operational performance and efficiency. And that's been highly valuable for the industry, and there's been significant uptake in that. It's a tool that's available on our website, and lots of people have been engaging and looking for feedback on how their operation compares to everybody else. The other thing that Elizabeth touched on was the CEEC medal. The CEEC medal has also been around for as long as we have, and every year we award 2 medals now, one for technical contribution and the other one is an operational one. And I've just been heartened about how our industry is willing to share this kind of information openly. We had a paper a couple of years ago where people actually listed costs and financial impact to the operation, and we're quite open in sharing that. So I think I've seen a bit of a shift since the inception of CEEC, that we're more willing to collaborate, more willing to share, more willing to be more open in this forum too, which is something maybe for CEEC has facilitated, which I'm extremely proud of.
A collaborative element that's just going to be so important in every area of mining going forward. I can't see that we're ever going to achieve our future goals without it, to be honest. That leads quite nicely into the next question. Elizabeth, are you okay to stay with us, or do you need to jump off?
All right. Well, look, I probably should jump off because Zeljka's much closer to, I'm no longer on the board, so Zeljka's a lot closer to that now. But I think the only other thing I'd like to comment on again is just a couple of things, I suppose. One is how international it's all, you know, from day one, it was the company's known as CEEC International Limited. And so it's always had a global focus. We've always had an international board. And I've just been so incredibly proud of how the directors, you know, the board of directors has emerged and evolved, and the chairmanship's been handed on from, you know, such capable people, you know, like, and our very original CEO, Sarah Boko, who played such an incredible part because, you know, of getting that started, getting the whole organisation up and running, and then Alison taking on. It's really remarkable. The cause has attracted quality people who've continued, you know, with passion and with intellect, and you know, it's something that I'm certainly incredibly proud of, and so pleased that I was able to, you know, gestate the project at the very beginning and then sort of hand it on and have all these amazing people make it even better. I never imagined that it could become what it's become, you know, and that's just, you know, it makes me so proud. So that's been great.
You should be proud. Congratulations. You obviously laid really strong foundations for it.
I know. And if I sort of, there's lots of other things we could do the same, but my husband keeps on telling me, because it was quite a lot of energy investment at the time. But thank you, Carly, for having me on, and thank you, Zeljka, for keeping the fires burning. And I'll leave you guys to carry on, but great to catch up, and nothing like a bit of reminiscing. I'll go and have
Definitely. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Yes.
Wonderful. Right. So we've talked a bit about CEEC's kind of history and what you've achieved thus far. But tell me, Zeljka, how does CEEC look today, and where are you going over the next 10 years? I know that's a very big question and you might not have all.
Yes, it's a very big question. Well, one of the things that Elizabeth said is certainly that it's multinational. We have directors everywhere. We have advocates, CEEC advocates throughout the world too, who are active in this space and support CEEC right from the direction we're taking to expediting some of these ideas. So our big driver has been the CEEC energy curves, as I mentioned earlier, and we're working with the JK on that with the SMI group, and they've been really spearheading the analysis of that data and producing the energy curves in that cost curve format. And some of the things that we're doing is that we're expanding now more so beyond crushing and grinding, beyond comminution, looking at downstream and upstream as well, realising that blasting is a big part of comminution, really is essentially the first stage of comminution, the breaking of the rocks using explosives, and also looking at downstream, particularly coarse grinding and fine grinding as well, and separation of coarse particles. Great engineering initiatives by CRC Ore and so on. We are also realising that the environmental and social governance issues are big on people's plates at the moment, and doing some work with the Canadian Innovation Council in that space as well, around looking at replicating the CEEC energy curves to produce CEEC water curves, also a benchmarking application of that.
Sounds like we're just at the beginning of this journey, really.
Yes, we're just at the beginning. We're moulding and forming into something that's going to be relevant to the industry, or that remains to be relevant to the industry.
Excellent. And then my final question was, why are initiatives like CEEC, why are they so important to the future of the mining industry?
Yeah, look, CEEC's mission, CEEC's remit has always been to share information, to promote information and work that people are doing in this space, both research organisations and people in operations, and that open platform to collaborate and to work together to inspire, really. And I think CEEC is quite unique in the work that we've done. As I say, it is a charity, and as Elizabeth has mentioned, it's a unique business model for the industry, and I think it's really important to keep our motion relevant to the industry. So
Definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, knowledge is power, right? If we don't talk about these subjects, if we don't, collate information on it and share it, where are we going to be in 10 years' time?
That's right. That's right. So, yeah, it's been an exciting time. Sometimes it's been it's been challenging juggling work and family and a role for a non-for-profit, but certainly it's given me a lot of insight to the industry, exposed me to some really exciting people and some great ideas, and I'm hugely grateful.
Yeah, I know that juggling feeling well, but
yes.
Congratulations again. I mean, I think what you've achieved is wonderful so far, and it sounds like you've got so much to look forward to as well.
Yeah, no, it's good. Thank you very much, Carly.
No worries. Thank you so much for joining me, Zeljka.
Okay.
And congratulations again on your anniversary. And thank you to our viewers.
Thank you very much. I'm stoked. We made it this far and we're still relevant.
Thank you to our viewers. We'll see you again very soon.